Welcome back, everybody. With the crypto market being so negative right now, it's really hard to find that bright spot of positivity, but I think we've found it this week with Solana. There's been a ton of bullish news coming out about the project recently, so we're going to dive into detail about that in this video. So let's hop right in. The first bit of news that I want to cover is around NFT volume. So we've seen Solana sustain its overall NFT volume much better than Ethereum. Not only have we seen, somewhat of a heavy fluctuation in Ethereum, at the same time that we've seen this kind of decline in Ethereum volume, we've seen an exponential increase in Solana volume. Now, this is great because we're now experiencing our first true NFT bear market along with this crypto bear market. So this is a really, really true test of kind of where, the NFT traders lie, where people want to be trading NFTs. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see this kind of flush out. Maybe Solana comes out on top in terms of the number one NFT blockchain at some point. But obviously, this means a lot more transaction volume, a lot more demand on the Solana blockchain versus Ethereum for NFTs, at least with this trend. And obviously that would mean over time, more users and a higher sustained price for Solana over time. So definitely wanted to make note of that. Definitely a very important thing to keep your eye on. Now, the second thing I want to cover, and this kind of goes hand in hand with transactions and NFT volume, but the incredible difference between the gas fees paid for Solana transactions versus Ethereum. Now, off the bat, this is going to look, pretty similar, and it's almost looking like, Solana had the higher volume. But what I want you to pay attention to here is these sidebars. So you're going to see Solana in USD over here and Ethereum in millions over here. So really, when you break down this chart and understand that this is thousands and this is millions in USD, Solana is doing 100 times less of the transaction cost per transaction, which means a lot less gas fees for users, which means users have a lot less pain when they're transacting via Solana. And over time, the idea is that pain may grow, in terms of if the merge for Ethereum doesn't go well, and if Solana gets even faster potentially or gets more secure, we may see more demand come to Solana if they can kind of sustain this advantage over Ethereum, right? So really important to keep your eye on this as well. I think that this is a huge, huge competitive advantage for Solana over Ethereum. Now, the most exciting piece of news that has got me jazzed today is the fact that we're seeing overall at this point, a critical point halfway through the year, about a little over halfway through the year. Look at where we're lining up on year-to-date institutional investment across these different cryptocurrencies. So first of all, I want to point your eye to a nearly negative 450 million divestment from Ethereum on the institutional level. That is absolutely incredible. Whether it's due to the uncertainty around the merge or whether it's due to other factors, semi-unclear, but at the same time, incredible to compare that with the slightly moderate investment in Bitcoin at 20.5 million. But then if we scroll down here, 110 million year to date invested in Solana institutionally. Now, compared to the other cryptos, that is incredible, right? That's 10 times what we saw putting into Cardano this year, and 5 times what we saw put into Bitcoin, right? So that is absolutely incredible. Obviously, institutions are seeing an incredible risk reward when it comes to Solana compared to a lot of these other cryptocurrencies. At the same time, taking a step back, 110 million is a drop in the bucket when you're talking about the broader financial market. But at the same time, in this context, looking at how much more is invested by these institutions into Solana as opposed to especially Bitcoin, right? 5 times more than what these institutions are putting into Bitcoin, they're putting into Solana. So they obviously see some serious risk reward here in terms of managing Solana, in terms of having it as part of their portfolio. So I definitely want to keep a eye on this and see if institutions continue to double down or if they divest that. But very, very interesting to see halfway through the year, we have $110 million institutional coming into Solana. So awesome news there. Now, the next thing I want to point out, and this is kind of just setting the expectation, setting the tone, and kind of recentering ourselves, right, in terms of where the price action is. Comparing this to the Ethereum fractal in 2018, right, because ETH fell to $79 in December of 2018. That was a 95% correction. And then obviously the 4 years following that, we saw a 6,000% increase, a 60x from that point to obviously its high of around $4,900 back in November of 2022 or of 2021. So very, very interesting to then set that tone and say, Well, hey, if Sol drops to 15, we're at that 95% area, right? So we haven't even hit that. We're at about $36 right now for Solana. And Posty, brings up an interesting point, right? For those who question the functionality issues and outages, remember the hype always wins. And, I somewhat agree with that, but I think more so the sentiment is those functionality issues, can be fixed over time, similar to, problems ETH might have been going through in 2017, 2018. Many people were calling for it to go to zero. Same thing with Solana. A lot of people are saying it could die out. I personally think that it has a great chance at making a huge comeback next bull run. But I think this is a really, really interesting point just to reset our expectations and say, hey, for Solana's first bear market, it really hasn't fallen that much compared to what ETH did in its first or, second-ish bear market, right? So, falling 95%, we haven't come close to that on Solana quite yet. So I wanted to set that, those last couple notes as context before we hop into this chart over here. So I want to finish up with a little bit of chart analysis and just kind of start scoping out what the next key levels are, what we're looking at in terms of the health of the chart here in the short term, and then we can kind of look mid to long term. So the first thing that I want to point out is that we're starting to, if you can see here, we're starting kind of to consolidate just a little bit over the last, month or so. We've kind of started to consolidate. We've seen somewhat of a triple bottom here. Boom, boom, boom. And, usually that is a bullish signal, but at the same time, we have a lot of macro turmoil going on with Russia, Ukraine. Inflation is looking like it's only going to get worse. So it really depends if, first off, I was comparing this fractal to this fractal where I don't necessarily think that is in play anymore because of the consolidation we've seen here and because of what's coming. Back here in March, we were just starting to have some of our first rate hikes, so that didn't really play into the price action of Solana. So I'm kind of thinking we might see some more consolidation, maybe a little bit of a tick to the upside, maybe to the mid 40s here, where we have kind of this pretty solidified resistance, even just a little bit lower than that. So between 45, 47, I could maybe see us getting up there in the short term. More midterm, I think that there's a decent chance, as some of these articles and as some of these analysts have been stating, I think that there's a decent chance that we actually see a further drop. I don't know if we've experienced enough pain quite yet with Solana, and where those kind of key levels would be is we'd probably drop out and lose this previous support of about $25, and then we'd likely play between $25 and $11. $11 was our last key support here back in March of 21. And you can see that we consolidated around that support pretty well. So that typically means that that's a pretty structured support in terms of the chart and should be baked in terms of the next support. But obviously, going off of what Ethereum did, if we were to do exactly what ETH did back in 2018 at a 95% drop, we would be looking at, roughly 1250, 1260. In terms of price action and price target for Solana. Now that I don't think is a long-term target. I think that's more, midterm. I think that we might see some consolidation here as we go. Maybe a little bit of a run up, like I said here. And, some people might say, hey, we're turning around. I would say no, likely not. I'd say likely we probably drop back down. If we do lose that $25 support, our next support would be around, $12 or $11. And interestingly enough, just above that would be the Ethereum target for that 2018 fractal. So I think, looking at that, I think it's really, really important to kind of set that expectation. And if you are really bullish on Solana, definitely make sure that you're not, going all in at a particular price point. I think there's a decent chance that we go down further from here. So definitely be careful, especially if you're long-term on the project. There's really not going to be a rush, in my opinion, to get in here. The next thing I wanted to point out is once we do, let's say, have a rebound, whether it's in 2022 or 2023, and we do hit that low of 95% down from the all-time high, and we finally do rebound, the next key level is not until $81. So unless we see an $81 Solana, in my opinion, we haven't fully reversed to then set the tone for maybe that next turnaround to the upside for the next bull market, right? So be very, very careful because we are likely going to see a lot of 20% up, 20% down, 30%, 30% down weeks, and it's going to feel pretty wild, right? But at the same time, if we take a step back, we understand, we've been 95% down before. Arguably the second most popular crypto was down 95% at the last bear market. There's really no reason why Solana couldn't do the same thing. Maybe it almost gets there and then bounces up, right? But I think ideally, in terms of getting the max for your investment, this is kind of going to be the area that we're looking for in terms of picking up more Solana. Obviously, DCAing here is not a terrible idea, but I think at the same time we need to be careful, especially if you're long term. We'll probably see some more negative price action in the midterm. And then to sum up, until we get back above this 200-day simple moving average and back above, $80-ish, $81, I don't think we'll see a full turnaround. So it's likely we'll, eventually, whether it's a year from now, 6 months from now, we'll probably see some heavy resistance here before breaking through that. But at the same time, wouldn't look for a full Solana reversal till we see that $81 to $85 range as a support. So that is what I have for you guys today. Thank you so much. Let me know in the comments if you have Solana, if you're bullish on it. I think it's a really, really good project, and it has maybe the highest potential to be that Ethereum killer. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.